Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is the Raw recap show for the May 20th edition of Monday Night Raw. We are now in a post Money in the Bank universe. Everything happened last night, and now tonight we're experiencing fallout from Money in the Bank, of course. Of course. Why wouldn't we be? Because there's events happening, things going on, occurrences are occurring. And we are going to be talking about those this evening right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, which is where I do the show live every Monday night, about a half hour after Raw finishes. 11:30-ish on the Eastern Seaboard, 10:30-ish on the Central Seaboard, although this doesn't have a C in the Central. Anyway, you know how that goes. 11:30 Eastern. You do figure out your own calculations, and then you can come on over here on YouTube.com and you can join us live here in the wonderful chat that we have every time I go live, and this is fantastic. We have a whole bunch of fantastic people again joining us here this evening. We have JPQ, who's here, the world's most handsome mod, Blaine Mendoza. We have Maven Glee, Anthony from Smart to Death as well. We have Hawkeye, Metal 2006, Michael Stepnier is here as well. Just a whole bunch of friends of the show. Kevin Carroll as well. Joe Anthony has joined us. Brian Payne, folks. What a fantastic group of people. I don't know why you're not here chatting with these people. Well, maybe you just have a life that requires you to not be around this late on Mondays, which is understandable, which is probably why you're watching this at your own leisure, on demand here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And if you are, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching it later, why don't you consider giving the video a thumbs up? That always helps out quite a bit. Maybe you're not even watching this. Maybe you're listening to this because the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is also available in podcast format on all your favorite podcast applications, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, Podcoin, Himalaya, Castbox, for Pete's sake. That's where it all is. So hey, feel free to pop in and listen to it on whenever you want. The good thing about not a podcast, but you know what good thing about podcasting is? When you listen to podcasts, it takes up a lot less bandwidth if you're using your data rather than video, right? And honestly, let's be honest, let's be frank and upfront with each other. You don't necessarily have to look at me. I don't actually understand who wants to look at me. But thank you anyway. Thank you for being here and listening wherever you want. Look at this. Look, yeah. We have Blue Riot, CM Phil, Kristen Ashley, who've just joined the chat as well. Gosh darn it. Look at all of the full room tonight. Full room, but there's always room. You don't have to show up like an hour early to have room, standing room or whatever. No. We accept all comers here. We accept all comers. Remember tomorrow night, SmackDown Live. So my live show, again, my live recap show starts at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. So hopefully you'll be able to make it over after SmackDown is done because I'd like you to. And then on Wednesday, it is my usual midweek 205 Live NXT UK recap show over on Fightful Select, which is the premium service to Fightful.com. The type of place where you can find news about Jordan Grace not having an Impact contract, and then the next day Impact announcing that they've just signed Jordan Grace and then have people get mad because then they say, oh, you reported she didn't have a contract. Well, she didn't have a contract the night before, and today she has a contract. That's how things work. That's kind of that's kind of what breaking news is. She didn't have a contract, now she has a contract. You can find that kind of news or on Fightful. And Fightful Select basically gives you a whole bunch of extra wrestling content that you will really, really enjoy, that you'll really, really like, such as my 205 Live NXT UK recap show, which I do every week. And then Sean Ross Sapp. And I do retro pay-per-view reviews as well. So that's fantastic, because Sean also does the Fightful the Fightful Report. That's every day, where he discusses news, talks about all sorts of scoopsies and stuff. And you have Steven Jensen, who does the Weekender every weekend, talking about non-WWE programming. And there's all sorts of exclusives and special news and sneak peeks, Q&A sessions. Go check it out. It starts at $5 a month, and it's the best way to support everything that's done over at Fightful. Not just my stuff, everyone's stuff. That's really the best way to support it. And I hadn't realized this, but Sean tweeted this out earlier today. I have been this week, and I'm not quite sure what the date is, but this actually marks my first year into podcasting. And I've told this story before a couple of times. I've told the story on recently on when I was on the Why We Watch podcast, which is hosted by Darren Kirkby. I was on that a couple of weeks ago. And I actually started doing this one day when I was just goofing around Twitter, and Sean sent out a tweet, just a random tweet out there into the universe, and said, would anyone want to join me for a retro pay-per-view review for Great American Bash that I'm setting up? And I'm sort of sitting there, and I just saw, the tweet literally just pops up, and I'm like, so I read him and said, hey, yeah, I'd like to do that. So he DMs me back, and he says, well, do you have a decent microphone? I said, sure. I did not have a decent microphone. I did go out and buy one, tried it out with Sean, and since then, that's how it snowballed. Then after that, I was like, wow, I enjoy doing this. So yeah, it's actually been a full year of me doing this, and I couldn't be happier. It's been a crazy year. It's been a wild year. Podcasting has been fantastic. I've met so many wonderful people. I've met some people who have literally changed my life. And it's crazy how much everything has grown throughout this year. It's really nuts how everything has changed and progressed, and a lot of it has to do with everyone who pops in, who listens whenever you can, whether it's live, whenever it's not, whether it's all the I won't do the spiel over again, but you know what I'm saying. It's crazy like that, and it's very, very humbling, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everyone's support in doing this, and here's to many more years, despite the fact that Sean would like me to retire. I don't think it's happening anytime soon. So there we go. So I wanted to get that out of the way, and because that's. Oh, I will be doing, that's right, Saturday evening, I will be hosting the Double or Nothing post-show pay-per-view on Fightful.com. I think Alex Pulowski is going to be joining me, but yeah, I'm going to be doing pay-per-view review wrap-up for Double or Nothing this Saturday. Looking forward to that. I can't be in Vegas, unfortunately. I have a lot of folks like Anthony, who's going to be in Vegas. Sean is going to be in Vegas. A whole bunch of people are going to be in Vegas. I'm not. I'm going to pretend I'm going to be in Vegas. I'm going to have my own little blackjack table where I'm going to set up some chips, and I'm going to, that means hit me when you do that. When you do that, it means hit me. And then they don't actually hit you. They give you an extra card. When you play blackjack, if you were following, hit me, blackjack, and then you try to get the 21. Then you can do hit me, and you get 23, and you're like, oh, I lost. See? It's going to be an exciting evening at the faux Vegas home Mr. Warren Hayes. So there you go. So mark that in your calendar as well. Can't wait to do that for the Fightful crew on Saturday. Quick thoughts about Money in the Bank before we go on, because I just want to give a few, because I will be, some of the results will have a direct impact on some of the proceedings this evening. And what I'd like to focus on are things that I really liked. And here are a few things that I really liked. I really liked Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. This is one of WWE's top matches of 2019 so far. It's probably main roster's best match, or at least it's up there with the early Ray versus Andrade matches from like January or February this year. It was absolutely fantastic. I think Becky dropping one of the titles was the best outcome. I think she needs to be specifically on Raw. And I think that's essential. And of course, Bayley winning the Money in the Bank women's ladder match and then cashing in on the exact same night on Charlotte is perfect. This is how, it's exactly how you build a star. This is elevating someone who already has credibility in the eyes of many members of the audience, right? Already has that sheen about her. If you cooled her off, you want to put her right back up there, that's exactly how you do it. Bayley going all out during the Money in the Bank match, which I thought was fantastic. Actually kind of violent. She was the one being the most severe from all the women, so that was fantastic. And coming in and cashing in, I got goosebumps, got teary-eyed. As many as you know by now, I have always been a big Bayley fan. I've believed in Bayley back when she was in NXT. I banged my head into a wall until it was made bloody with how she's been booked on Main so far. This is the perfect outcome for a Bayley fan like myself. And it also made a lot of sense as well. Let's see, what else? I thought both ladder matches were fantastic in their own separate ways. They were good, but for very different reasons from one another as well. I also thought the Usos versus Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan was a fantastic opening match, or a pre-show match. I thought it was a lot of fun. I was not surprised, but it was really, really good, especially for an opener on the pre-show like that. A good time was had on that level. The rest I think we're going to talk about it as we go along. Tony Nese and Arya Daivari worked their asses off, by the way, for the Cruiserweight title. But I'll talk more about that on my 205 Live recap. You're going to have to subscribe if you want to hear me talk about it. You see how that goes? Paywall! All right, let's stop paywalling stuff and get right into the meat of the matter here. The meat. But overall, I thought Money in the Bank, just to close this up here, I thought Money in the Bank was a good show. I thought overall it was a fun WWE pay-per-view. It was fun to listen to, wasn't hard to get into. The cool-down matches cooled us down significantly. I think, one of the main takeaways that I'm kind of disappointed in is that we're getting more Shane McMahon on our TVs. Shane McMahon, who has competed and will probably continue to compete on pay-per-view. He's competed on every WWE pay-per-view since the beginning of the year. And it doesn't look like they're ending that trend anytime soon. I want to say hi to Webby, who's jumped into the chat as well. All right, let's get to it. Start talking about WWE Raw this evening. And we are going to start by talking about none other than the Beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar, who appeared at the end at the tail end of the men's Money in the Bank match, which was crazy, to claim the briefcase because Sami Zayn had been taken out in mysterious ways. I'm not quite sure what happened to poor Sami. It's still not clear. No one is taking responsibility for the attack. Brock and Paul, when they hit the ring this evening, they said, there's conspiracies afoot. But there's, it's not us. Braun says it's not him either. So who could it be? The mystery is still open. There's a lot of people who are saying that this is probably the work of Bray Wyatt, because it's kind of a savage thing to do, hanging someone upside down, kind of in a position where you'd gut a pig, It feels very Bray-ish. It'd be neat. I'd be okay with that. But anyway, so Brock basically comes down to the ring, right? And he has his briefcase. He's holding it as if it's a boom box because apparently he's like, in the 80s or something. Paul Heyman, of course, is doing all the talking, and he says that either Seth or Kofi are vulnerable now to the, what was he calling him? The main assassin for WWE now that he's the Money in the Bank briefcase holder, Mr. Money in the Bank, Money in the Beast in the Bank, whatever. And Paul starts cutting a promo on Seth, who comes out. Seth Rollins hits the ring, and he says that he was in the fight of his life last night against AJ Styles, and he won. But he's not in a good mood. He has to see Brock holding the briefcase there. He said that Seth says that he's out here to be a champion that inspires people, but he can't do that. He can't do that because Brock is holding the briefcase, like looming above him, So he proposes this. Seth says, I beat you, Brock, at WrestleMania. I can beat you again. So why don't we do this right here, right now, cash it in tonight? And Paul shuts the idea down and says, no. This is all about anticipation. It's about waiting. And you should know about waiting, waiting 7 hours for your girlfriend to main event WrestleMania. The WrestleMania that you wanted to main event. And Seth gets hot about that, probably because he's talking about his girlfriend. He doesn't, it's like, take my girlfriend's name out of your mouth, Paul Heyman. But otherwise, I thought it was a very odd kind of jab. It's like, it's humiliating for you, sir, that your girlfriend was in a better position than you during that evening. It's a weird jab. I'm not quite sure what that was supposed to entail, especially in an organization which is supposed to be as progressive as WWE, where the women can do all the same thing as the men. Don't quite see why it's that big a deal that Seth sort of hung around WrestleMania to cheer on his girlfriend at the very end. I know I wouldn't have a problem with that, but that's just me. So Brock and Seth get into a shoving match, which fired up the crowd. And to be honest, I was kind of into it. I was like, yeah, all right. There's some real fire going on here. I'm good with this. And Paul says that maybe Brock doesn't want to face you, Seth. Maybe he wants a new challenge because it's a new day. Yes, it is. And that actually calls Kofi out to a huge reaction. So he's one of our wild cards this evening. Jesus Christ. I promise, folks, I'm going to try and not go off on the wild card rule tonight. Okay? We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'll try not to rehash that rant just yet. Kofi hits the ring, and he says that he wants to cement his legacy as one of the greatest WWE champions of all time. So if you're going to cash in tonight, I'm going to need you to cash it on me. cash it in on me. Paul says, he says, I can't believe this. Both champs are here auditioning for a shot at Brock Lesnar. And this is what I had been thinking, like throughout the majority of this promo here. I was like, why are both champs coming out here and saying, hey, challenger, you fight me. No, hey, challenger, you fight me. Where it should be just like, whatever, man, whenever you're ready, just cash in. It seemed a little weird. It seemed to be much more serving to put Brock over as the guy everyone wants to beat, which is not entirely untrue, right? Like, because this is how Brock has been built. But it's just weird to have both of your champions doing this. Didn't feel like it was putting the champions over more so than putting Brock over. And Paul ends the segment saying that both men are not done for the night anyway, and Brock is going to hang around for the rest of the evening. Oh, and I'm like, oh. Mr. Lesnar tonight has decided to grace us with his presence for the entirety of the proceedings. Golly gee, thank you so much. Mr. Lesnar, would you like to have a seat? Would you like to have little footsies, some warmer for your footsies? Perhaps a little bath, a little salt bath for your feet and warm water that you could just put your feet in? Would you enjoy that? Thank you for staying with us this evening, Mr. Lesnar. I want to say hello to Sean Ross Sapp, who is not only live right now on Fightful.com, but has joined the chat here as well. Webby says, Kofi didn't look like a fighting champion wanting to fight Lesnar. WWE creative makes him look dumb because who wants to face Lesnar? I think I get what you're saying, Webby. Yeah, but the idea here is, I think it goes on both sides here. Like I just, like I pointed out, it's the idea that both challengers are sort of posturing for like, hey, I want to get the challenger. They're basically acting as if Brock is still the champion. This is how, yeah, that'll wrap up my sentiment here. It's more like they're still acting like Brock is the champion, and then you want people wanting to fight him. Well, it should actually be the other way around. Would be nice. It would just be nice to have Brock actually chase, but this is not the case right now. There we go. So. We go backstage where Sami Zayn is complaining to Bobby Lashley that he has a match against Braun tonight, and he's sort of trying to get Lashley to help him out tonight. And I'm like, Lashley, why is he cozying up? Why is he cozying up to Bobby Lashley? Bobby Lashley hates him. We all hated Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley. Why are you reminding us of all of this? But Lashley says, nope. He's like, no, I'm not. I'm not gonna. You go soften, because basically Sammy was like, you have a match with him in a couple of weeks. Why don't you come and soften him up? Bobby Lashley was like, you know what, buddy? Why don't you go out there and soften him up for me? So that's I was actually pretty happy with that. At least they haven't forgotten the history. Because they completely did away with the history regarding Sammy and Shane McMahon, where, Sammy's like cozying up to Shane, and Shane's like, yeah, sure, Sammy, no problem. Where it's like, no, you guys completely hated each other, high levels of disrespect, and all of a sudden you're okay? No. I don't buy into that. Whereas here, Bobby Lashley's like, no, Sammy, you're an asshole. Fuck you. Yeah, Fix that up between yourselves. Then Seth and Kofi are backstage, and they run into Triple H, who's apparently running the shows now. Kayfabe, of course. I'd like to know why suddenly it's him, as opposed to Vince, as opposed to Shane. What's the chain of command here? But that's just me asking too much, asking things to make sense. WWE logic. No. It's not how it works. Basically, Triple H announces that Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston are going to be in a tag team match against the fresh team of Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley. So fresh, brand new, first time together, never seen this type of combo before. Wowsies. I mean, when you think about it, you get these types of fresh matches, fresh tag team combinations without the wild card rule. I mean, you'd think that the wild card rule would allow for new fresh combinations, new fresh ideas for matches, but no. We'll just go back to the tried and true type of freshness. That kind of, not the real freshness. The freshness that the type of freshness that's like when you pull out like some salami that's been in the fridge a little too long. You say, how long has it been in there? 15 days, 20 days? And you open up the package and you put it up to your nose and you're like, whoo, it's a little rank. So you take some Febreze and you smush it on it. You just spray some Febreze on the salami. It's that kind of freshness. That kind of freshness. It's like, this smells great. Now, first match of the evening is Braun Strowman versus Sami Zayn, where Braun finally gets to get his hands, give these hands to Sami Zayn. Sami hits the ring, but he splits the moment Braun arrives, and he gets out of there, hit the bricks, but Braun is right after him. They actually run into Bobby Lashley, who's backstage, where Sami's like, get him, Bobby, get him. And Bobby sort of gets he does stuff, but it's very half-hearted. He's not into it. He's like, no. I'm just going to get a lick in. And I'm not actually helping you out here, Sami. Sami tries to use Lashley as a distraction, but it's useless. And Braun and Lashley exchange glares, and Braun says, I'll deal with you later. They head back ringside. Sami posts Braun a couple of times. Finally, the bell is rung while Braun Strowman's bell is rung. And the match is official. Sami goes for the haluva kick at that exact moment, but Braun moves out of the way. Rushes forward, and Sami eats a running clothesline. Then he hits the running power slam on Sami, and that's that. They're back to building Braun really strong, really hot again. But maybe they'll be able to to get on top of things. Maybe they'll be able to rise to the occasion once again with Braun Strowman, or then again, maybe not. Next match of the evening that we had here was Ricochet versus Cesaro. Rest in peace. Let's all have a moment of silence for the bar's theme song. It's officially, it's done. It's gone. What a shame. What a true shame. It kind of, I dug that, and I saw the bar entrance live last year when I went to SmackDown, and holy hell, like the music just like it's really, really loud, and when it punches really huge, and then with the really stark white lighting on Sheamus and Cesaro, it live is something like, wow, this is really cool. What can you do? I want to say a shout out to Shane Haas and Richard Storm, who are in here with us. So, yeah, Ricochet and Cesaro. We're up to this match here. Basically, the story here is that Ricochet is hurt from his Money in the Bank ladder match, particularly Are we getting... It's... Okay, I think we're all right. I think the stream might have dropped for a second. Apologies. Look, it looks like we're okay. So yeah, no, basically here, the story is that Ricochet, your boy Ricochet, is hurt from his Money in the Bank match because he basically broke a ladder with his back after being flipped over from by Drew McIntyre. So he's all taped up. He's hurt. It's not working out for him. But hey, he's a trooper. He got challenged by Cesaro during the day. Is Cesaro being opportunistic, or is Ricochet just really ready to go? We're about to find out as Cesaro tosses Ricochet around to begin with. He hits an enormous back body drop that Ricochet just sold. He just flew through the air. That was beautiful. He rolls to the outside. Ricochet goes after him. He posts... Cesaro goes after Ricochet. And Ricochet posts Cesaro. He hits his parkour moonsault off of the turnbuckle post to the floor. Goes back into the ring, hits a pescado, goes for a pescado, but he gets caught by Cesaro, who plants him on the side of the apron. Back from commercial, Ricochet is in a stretch. Cesaro's working the back. Ricochet hits a satellite Rana on Ricochet. He hits a huge tope from the over the top rope to the outside as a picture-in-picture ad for Secret Life of Pets 2 decides to play. Back in the ring, Ricochet goes up top, flies off, but Cesaro hits a European uppercut on him, presses him into a backbreaker, and man, Ricochet folded up savagely. There you go. You know how your back is not supposed to bend this way? Well, it bent that way in a very, very severe looking manner, and Cesaro hit the neutralizer for the win. Huh. All right, look. All power to Cesaro. Let's give Cesaro wins. A win for Cesaro is good for you. It's good for me. It's good for your family. It's good for democracy. I'm okay with that. That is so good. So I'm okay. I'm okay with Cesaro getting a win. Ricochet, you know, they were carrying the story of the night before that it was damaged. That he was damaged. He was hurt, but he still has the heart of a competitor. He doesn't look any weaker. Let's see. Colton says, why worry about pushing Strowman if he's never winning a title? Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you still want strong people. Maybe he will eventually win a title. There we go. Why not? And Blaine says, a Cesaro win is good shit, pal. And that is good indeed. I forgot to talk about the Lars Sullivan interview. Lars Sullivan was supposed to give us speak for the first time in WWE, give an interview in the ring. Now, I'm just going to toss this out there. If it's the first time that Lars Sullivan is supposed to talk since he's in WWE, how do I know he has a lisp? Because your boy, he has a lisp. Do you know why I know he has a lisp? Because he gave interviews and promos in NXT. His actual character in NXT is that, yeah, he's a brute, he's a monster, but he's smart. He's like Bruce Banner Hulk. The combination of the two together, living together. He's like huge and massive, but also very smart. He has vocabulary and uses words. You know? But anyway, he comes to the ring, but the interview never takes place. He instead gets interrupted by Lucha House Party, who are back for some revenge for what happened at WrestleMania. Not at WrestleMania. What am I talking about? Money in the Bank. What happened at Money in the Bank last evening? You know when Lucha House Party were ready for their 6-man tag match that was not announced, and I'm still wondering to right now. This has kept me up all night. Who were they supposed to fight? Who was the other trio that they were supposed to fight against? We never knew because Lars Sullivan beat the shit out of them last night. So they came back for some measure of vengeance, but that didn't happen, or at least not the way they wanted. They did get some licks in, but they just got beat up by Lars afterwards, after they got some drop kicks in and so on and so forth. They just got devoured. You know how it goes. They're basically building Lars Sullivan as a monster, as a big, huge monster. Next, we have AJ Styles, who's backstage, where basically he gets asked in an interview, well, AJ, now that you haven't won the Universal title, what's left for you to do on Raw? Like, wow, this is awkward. Like, well, you can't go back to SmackDown, right? What's left for you to do on Raw? And he's he has a good attitude about it. He's like, no, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna go back to working hard. I'm like, really? I was actually really looking forward to you turning heel. I guess that's not in the cards anymore. But then Baron Corbin walks in to mock him. They trade some words, and AJ just slaps Baron in the face. Baron says, you're going to pay for that. So looking forward to this Baron Corbin, AJ Styles feud. Cannot wait for the main event cravat to be applied on AJ Styles. Then we have Roman Reigns, who comes out. And then Shane McMahon comes out. He has a microphone and he does most of the talking during this little segment here. Roman, of course, is here because of the wild card rules. Because I guess the wild card is his yard. It rhymes. Or maybe he just understood it. Maybe he misunderstood. Card for yard. It's my yard. I'm the yard. I'm taking this yard. I don't know. That's my Roman Reigns impression. I'm the big dog. I'm coming for your yard. I hope it's properly mowed before I take your yard. Because I want to do light yard work. So, Shane is out. And he does some best in the world stuff. And he tells us that he's done with Miz. I wish we were done with you, Shane, though. He says, my focus is now on Roman. Because he can't get over the fact that Roman Superman punched his pops, his pappy, his dad, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. He says that, so that's basically the thing. So Roman says, Shane, if you got beef, let's squash it tonight. Just come into the ring. And Shane says, oh, but I was in a brutal cage match last night. By the way, didn't care much for the cage match. Didn't care much for the cage match. Didn't cage much for the care match, though. Either or, both work. I didn't think it was all that great. Kind of hated the finish too. But I see what they're doing. They're building Shane to be anti-Roman, so that Roman can have an authority figure to go up against, because Roman is he's very, very much, he's relatable. He stays right there as one of the top underdogs of all time. So Shane says that, one thing that you can't remember, that you mustn't forget here, Roman, is that I'm in control. Don't forget, I'm your boss. And then Drew McIntyre comes out and stands menacingly next to Shane. And then Shane makes the match Roman Reigns versus Shane McMahon for Super Showdown in Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is something that just kind of happened out of nowhere, and I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure why this is of any interest to anyone, and I'm not quite sure what Drew was doing there, other than, you know, showing off that he's hired muscle and that he's probably going to help Shane get a win against Roman at Super Show. And see, that's the thing. This, again, they're putting Roman into situations. What's the word I'm looking for? Feuds. I'm looking for feuds. They're putting him in feuds that we just don't care about. That's the thing. I like Roman Reigns when he's like last night at Money in the Bank, where he comes out and he destroys a dude and that's it. But there's so much more money in him just being natural and free flowing than like this superhero figure it just does not connect. It just does not connect with people. That's the problem, and they're going for it again. They're just not learning from their mistakes, and it breaks my heart. It really does. And you know, and here's the thing about Shane hiring Drew McIntyre as well. You know, like if I was a heel, which I'm not, I'm a babyface. Wouldn't you agree, chat? If you think I'm a babyface, press F. Press F to confirm that I'm a babyface. If I were a heel and I was looking for someone to come protect me against Roman Reigns, I can tell you one thing: I wouldn't hire the guy who's never beaten Roman Reigns, like who hasn't defeated him, who lost to him at WrestleMania, for instance. Yeah, that's not the guy I'd turn to. Odd to say, right? I just want to point out, Babaruski in the chat, you pressed G instead of F. I think you just, like, G is right next to F on your standard QWERTY North American keyboard, so the F is right there. Actually, aside from Colton, nobody's pressing F, and I think you guys are just, you know, you might be pressing spacebar or something. Keep trying. Press F to determine that to show that I'm a babyface. Next, we have the Revival versus the Usos. This was, as they say in the business, good shit, pal. No shenanigans, no stupid pranks, no one going around going, no. Just had 4 guys doing what they do best. The match starts and Dash goes right after the Usos. The Revival actually hit a Sidewinder right from the start, which was really cool. They drive Jimmy into the barricade, assisted suplex by the Revival. They get a cover, but only get 2. The Usos fight back. They kick Dawson in the stomach, toss Wilder over the top rope, and we go to commercial. Back from commercial, Jimmy is in a headlock. Dawson comes in and eats an enziguri. Jay finally gets the hot tag, comes in with some big shots, a kick and a strike to the throat. Samoan drops on both members of the Revival. Jay goes up top for a cross body and hits it on Dash Wilder, covers him but only gets 2. The Revival fight back though. They hit a double team powerbomb followed, the double team move was actually a powerbomb followed by an elbow. Scott Dawson flew off the top rope to hit the elbow right after the powerbomb. Covers, but gets 2.9. He starts throwing some more strikes at each other. Dawson runs the ropes. Double super kick. Dawson gets covered, and Wilder breaks up the pin. I'll get through it. Tornado DDT on Jay from Dash Wilder. Jimmy super kicks Dawson, though, covers him for 2.9. But the Revival confused the Usos with a powerbomb spot that ends with a roll-up from Scott Dawson and the win. So the Revival actually defeat the Usos, who just last night defeated the SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. This was a great match. Honestly, this was a lot of fun because once again you let talented people talented tag teams do their thing, tell the stories that need to be told in the ring without Uzi Hot in their underwear or back shaving or whatever the shit that was. Just let them do what they do best. And this is what happens. You legitimately have two of the best tag teams in the world right now. You have the Revival, who are tag team specialists, the Usos, who are arguably top 3 in the world. Why wouldn't you just let them go for it? Why wouldn't you let them do everything that they can to just make everyone go crazy in the ring, in the audience? Let everyone go crazy in the ring as well, but you know what I mean. This was a great match. I really, really liked this. Blaine says, so this makes the Revival #1 contenders for both tag team titles? Maybe. I don't know. But one thing's for sure is that the Usos and the Revival have had more screen time than the Raw Tag Team Champions currently do. Backstage, Alexa Bliss is very low-key berating Nikki Cross for not winning last night. You know that? Because she had asked Nikki Cross, or Nikki Cross said, I'll win for you, Alexa, or something like that. I don't quite remember. But you know, it's that kind of berating that's, just very, very like, just very, very, a little snide, little commentary, it's just like, I'm not straight up, bashing you. I'm just saying, but you lost last night, didn't you, Nikki? Nikki Cross is like, yeah, but I liked it. I thought it was good. And as they're talking, the Revival come backstage and they're celebrating, and Dash Wilder sort of accidentally rubs himself up against as they're doing like trombone and whatever. He actually just he hooks Alexa as he passes by, and she goes, ew, and she sort of wipes herself off the sweat. I thought that was funny. Next we have, we had an episode of the Firefly Funhouse, which was, well put together, but it wasn't really an episode. It was more like a, when they do those clip shows, on TV, where for production purposes, instead of actually having to do like a full show, they just do a clip show where the stars, the characters would like reminisce over, hey, you remember that one time when we did this stuff? And then they just like edit together bits of that episode. And well, that's pretty much what we got. But I mean, Bray Wyatt his son just was born over the weekend. I think it's okay if he wasn't around to shoot segments for Raw. I think he could spend at least a couple of days with his newborn son and his girlfriend. They're not married, right? He didn't marry JoJo. They're living in sin. That's what they're doing. But congratulations to Bray Wyatt. I'm a little disappointed. It's still cool. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get any Firefly Funhouse. But, I mean, come on. Let the man have his baby. I'm going to spend some time with this kid. Nash, I think, is the name they gave him, with a K. Kanash. Next, we had a moment of bliss. Who had a special guest Becky Lynch, which was cool. I like the segment here. I thought it was fun. I like how the moments of bliss from this point on, they're not, not from this point on, but it's been a while now that Alexa's segments never go as she plans, and they just end up having a whole bunch of people on there, and she just loses control, and she's like, well, what am I supposed to do about this? Kind of thing. Everyone sort of invites themselves on the show. So it was kind of like that tonight. I like the idea that she invites Nikki Cross out, to join her. Yeah, you can come out, but it's like, don't stand there, stand over there. Don't stand over there, stand over there, kind of thing. Now she asks for coffee, and, he brings out, the dude brings out 2 mugs. Brings out 2 mugs and sort of empties half of the second mug into her mug. And then she turns to give the half empty mug to the guy, but the he's gone. She goes, and she hands it to Nikki. Like, she didn't even think that Nikki would like a cup of coffee, or that it was intended for her, which I thought was pretty funny. So Lynch comes out, and she gets asked the question, how does it feel to no longer be Becky Two Belts? And before Becky can actually say anything, the Iconics come out, and they sort of put over the fact that they still have their 2 belts, but Becky says that she'll drag the Iconics to the ring and beat them for their titles, and then she'll become Becky Tree Belts. And I'm like, wait, what? Hang on a second. Is this her new gimmick? Is this her new thing where she's kind of like Daniel Bryan again, and she's going to make belts out of wood? No, that wasn't funny. Warren, don't do that again. That was her accent, Warren. It's not funny. It's not funny. And Lacey Evans comes out, and she says, typical man, unable to give proper credit where credit is due. She says, if you lost the SmackDown title, it was because of Lacey Evans. Becky points out that Lacey Evans tapped out. Everyone starts arguing. There's some challenges that are made. Lacey Evans and the Iconics against Becky Lynch. Becky's like, I can fight all 3 of you. It's not going to work. Nikki Cross goes, I'll be your partner, which I thought was pretty fun. She's like just in the back and is like, I'll do it. It's fine. Well, you need one more person. There's only 2 of you, and Becky looks at Alexa and she says, she'll do. And she says, Alexa's like, wait a second, I don't want to do this. And Becky says, well, you don't have to do anything, just stand there and be pretty. So they all head down to the ring. Alexa walks down with her cup of coffee, which I thought was a nice touch. And so then we do get Becky Lynch, Nikki Cross, and Alexa Bliss versus the Iconics and Lacey Evans. The Iconics and Lacey Evans are not on the same page here. Lacey wants to basically it feels above the Iconics here. It was a fun little match. Nothing much out of it. Becky matrixes her way out of a pin. She kicks Peyton in the gut. She wants Lacey to come in, but Lacey doesn't want to fight Becky Lynch at all. Cross comes in. She drop kicks Royce, avalanches her, running bulldog that Peyton overprotected herself from taking. Like, she could have taken the bulldog a little better. Cross goes up top, hits a flying body press. And then Billie Kay distracts Nikki Cross, who gets attacked from behind. Double team kicks ensue. Then Evans tags herself in. She stomps Cross in the corner, hits her handstand Bronco Buster. Then Peyton tags herself in to get the pin on Nikki Cross, but only gets 2. Little sequence where the heels work over Cross. Becky finally gets in with the hot tag, beating Kay down. Lacey distracts, and Kay rolls Becky up, but only gets 2. But Lacey is basically walking away. She walks away from the fight. She doesn't want anything to do with the Iconics or Becky Lynch. But Becky brings the match to an end with the big exploder. She goes up top for a missile drop kick, but not to repeat the same mistake that happened at Money in the Bank last night, where she did her missile drop kick, but Lacey was way too far away. You can hear Becky calling audibly out to Billie Kay, come closer, come closer, come closer. And I'm like, oh, Becky. And she hits a top rope leg drop to get the win. Like I said, nothing serious here. Fun little match, worked well. Good to see Nikki Cross having something to do. Becky looks strong, and like I said earlier on, Raw needs Becky. It was the best idea. The best plan was for her to drop a title and become exclusive to a brand. That does indeed help. Mick Foley comes out because he's at the arena and he has a sack. He has a WWE sack. And he's coming out, folks. What is he coming out to announce? He's coming out to announce the creation of a new title. What would this new title be? What would it be? He says Raw is going to become, it's time to put the Raw back into Raw or something. Time to focus on the letters RAW. The third hour is going to be special now. I don't know what. It's going to make Monday nights Raw again. And basically gets in the ring and pulls out of his bag the 24/7 title. A title basically that can be defended anytime, anywhere, any place, as long as there's a referee on the scene, an official WWE on the scene, to count a pin or a submission, you're good to go. That title is up for grabs. And this is actually going to start tonight. We're going to crown our very first 24/7 champion right here in Albany, New York, on Raw. And he says and he puts the title on the mat, and basically he says, anyone can run in now, and the first person to get to the title will be the first 24/7 champion. And by the way, he says it's open to, we're starting it on Raw, but it's good for Raw, it's good for SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT UK. He's been through all the brands, so this is interesting. This is the part that I really find interesting, and that I hope they actually do something with it, as opposed to what they said they'd do with the women's tag title, saying, "Oh yeah, they can be defended on any brand." It hasn't been defended on NXT, even though Bayley and Sasha did show up there. There weren't any defenses, right? So, I will reserve judgment as we progress here. But as for now, this evening, we had the Good Brothers. We had Eric Young, EC3, Mojo Rawley, No Way Jose, Cedric Alexander, and Titus O'Neil, the C team of Raw, come in. Even Drake Maverick tries to sneak in here. And basically, what happens here is that they all sort of go for the title, but it is Titus O'Neil who grabs the title first and becomes the very first 24/7 title holder. And as he's running back up the ramp, Bobby Roode blindsides him and pins him to become the second 24/7 champion. And he runs to the back as the rest of the C-level card run after him. Now, at this point, there's a couple of segments backstage. I'm going to group the rest of the 24/7 segments all into this little part here so that I don't have to necessarily talk about it again. But there's this whole segment where you have Bobby Roode running with the title. He's running away, and he's like, and then he goes and he hides behind a crate, behind a road case. He's like, boop, boop, boop. And then you have like the 7 or 8 other guys who are like chasing after him. It started to look like a Benny Hill sketch at that point. I was like, oh, come on, guys. And they do this a couple of times. Even at some point, Bobby Roode, he runs in front of Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley, and he says, "You didn't see me," and he keeps running. And then the whole crew follows as well. And I'm thinking, why didn't Baron Corbin or Bobby Lashley, why didn't they just clothesline him down, like pull a move on him and then pin him, and then they get the 24/7 title? Why didn't they do that? Is it because they're upper mid card and it's not for that? I don't know. But, if it's a 24/7 title and you're supposed to be paranoid, you don't go running up to other wrestlers and saying, "Hey, don't let the screaming mob of wrestlers behind me, don't let them know they're after me." A little strange. And anyway, this all comes to a head when Roode is still being chased, but he runs into R-Truth, wild card. He runs into R-Truth, where R-Truth is like, "Hey, I'll hide you, man. Come here," and he hides him in the trunk of his car. So the whole gang comes, the chasers, and R-Truth is like, "You went that away," and that's literally what he says. "You went that away." That made me smile. And then Truth goes back to Bobby Roode, gets him out of the trunk, and then he invites Bobby to get into the front seat of his car, opens the door, and out pops a referee, and R-Truth blindsides Bobby Roode. The referee counts a cover, pinfall. R-Truth is your new 24/7 champion. We've had 2 title changes this evening alone. This is crazy. It's wacky. I gotta tell you, I had heard a rumor earlier today that they were preparing a Legends belt, something to be given in Saudi Arabia. I am much more okay with this. I am very much 100% behind a 24/7 title as opposed to a Legends belt. Blech. That's something I'm not interested in. Look, people in the chat here saying, it's Blink 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 11, by the way, hello, says, should have brought back the television championship. And CM Phil's pointing out that the response to this announcement was non-existent. Not a lot of people in the audience cared for it. It's an ugly ass belt. I'll give you that much, folks. And even Colton says it would have been so much better had they given the title a proper name instead of 24/7. I actually hope that belt nerds down the road start calling it the Big Clock. That would make me laugh because I'm 13 years old. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to reserve judgment upon, because if WWE does give a shit, it can be fun. If they don't, it's going to be schmoz after schmoz, and it's going to be repetitive and just lazy. But the one thing that I say to myself that would really make this interesting, and would make it even more interesting than back in the day when they had the hardcore title, with the way WWE uses social media, I would love title changes to happen like on a Thursday, where there's no WWE programming at all. A Thursday, and you have R-Truth leaving a building wherever, and he turns the corner and he just gets black masked by Aleister Black out of nowhere. There's a ref right there, and Aleister Black picks up the title, but it happened on social media. You could only see it on YouTube, That would be a super interesting way to use social media to give this title its shine, that it really is 24/7. That if you're not watching, if you're not following social media, you will miss out on some of these title changes. It's not just going to happen on Mondays and Tuesdays, and NXT and NXT UK and 205 Live. I think that would be a lot of fun. I really think that would be good. And I think it's the most interesting proposition that the 24/7 title has for me right now. But, we'll see how this goes. Never know what would happen. I want to say hello to JS Brown and Jay King. We're in the chat as well, boys. It's good to see you. Good to see you. Next, we have The Miz versus Drew McIntyre because The Miz ran into Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre backstage, and The Miz is not done with Shane. Miz said it himself. Shane, you think you're done with me, but I ain't done with you yet. And Miz and Drew here have a match, and folks, this was a fun match. Drew was in control earlier on. He tries to overhead slam The Miz, but Miz reverses into a chin breaker. He avoids some of Drew's offense, slips between his legs, and trips him onto the apron. He slams Drew's leg against the barricade on the outside. Back in the ring, Drew charges, but Miz kicks the leg. He starts working the leg because, don't forget, babyface Miz uses the figure 4 leg lock as his as one of his finishers, as his submission finisher. Miz follows up with some boots to the face, but Drew hits a belly-to-belly overhead suplex on Miz, and man, that's always cool. But you know what's even cooler than that? Drew's deadlift suplex. Jesus! He covers Miz, but only gets 2. Up on the apron, Miz goes for a sunset flip, but Drew holds the ropes. But Miz recovers quickly and trips Drew on the apron. However, Drew on the outside drops Miz on the barricade, followed by an axe handle into the audience. He suplexes Miz back onto the floor over the barricade, and we cut to commercial. As we come back, Miz powerbombs Drew off the top rope, kicks him in the corner, hits the running knees. The third time that he goes for the running knees, Drew charges in, but Miz avoids the charge, and Drew hits the post. Miz starts hitting the it kicks. The last kick is caught by Drew, who lifts Miz into a powerbomb position, but he transitions out of it with a Hurricane Rana, for Pete's sake. The skull-crushing finale is avoided by Drew, who instead gets the inverted Alabama slam on Miz, covers him, but only gets 2. Miz then catches the leg while Drew is in the corner and hyperextends the hurt leg, goes for the figure 4, but Drew kicks Miz into the ropes where Shane McMahon is waiting and smacks Miz across the face as the referee is distracted. Miz is stunned. He stumbles back into a spine buster by Drew, who covers Miz for 2.9. A Claymore is avoided, and we go into the figure 4, but Drew chops his way out of it. Drew then goes out of the ring. Miz follows with a diving drop kick, tosses him into the barricade after trying to get to Shane, but Shane attacks Miz from behind while the ref's back is turned again. Miz gets back into the ring and eats a Claymore, which ends the job. And after the match, Shane and Drew set Miz up for a coast to coast, but Roman runs in and Superman punches Drew as Shane flees. I like this match. This was fun, and Miz doing some great transition work. I mean, transitioning out of the powerbomb position with a Hurricane Rana, that's not something you see Miz do every day. That was really cool. And I think I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. I think it's kind of weird for Shane McMahon to still do the coast to coast if he's a heel, because it really comes across as a babyface move. Like it's a babyface thing. You see him set up for the coast to coast, diving from one end to the other. That's an impressive thing to do. That's a babyface kind of thing to do. I think he might want to find something else if we go forward with this heel thing for a while. Blink 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 11 says Miz and Miz's dad versus Shane and Vince at SummerSlam. That'd be funny. Except Vince can't do anything anymore. Last but not least, Bobby Lashley and Baron Corbin versus Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston. That has suddenly become a no disqualifications match. So Corbin attacks Seth as he pops out from his for his entrance. Kofi's already in the ring, so he runs up to the ramp. And Bobby Lashley is there, and we have a schmoz to begin with. Seth eats a deep six as they get back into the ring. Seth eats that's it. Seth eats a deep six, and Kofi breaks up the pin. Seth fights back, and Enziguri's Corbin tags Kofi in, who hits a flying forearm on Bobby Lashley. A drop kick follows, jumping forearm, double leg drop on Bobby Lashley. Lashley fires back. He charges Kofi, who plants him, hits his springboard body press off the second turnbuckle, covers, but Corbin breaks the pin up. The babyfaces are on the outside. They get slammed into the barricades as we go to commercial. And as we come back, Baron Corbin is using those golden glove right hands on Seth Rollins. Corbin runs the ropes, eats a sling blade. Seth goes for a dive on the outside, but he's caught by Baron Corbin and is slammed on the apron, then tossed into the timekeeper's area. Then Corbin just buries Seth under a stack of chairs. The heels go after Kofi Kingston, and at this point, I don't even know who's legal anymore. I figured it was Seth, but apparently not. It doesn't matter. You know, it's not just because it's no disqualification doesn't mean that there's no rules. The heels go to hit a double superplex on Kofi, but Seth comes in with a chair and he starts nailing the heels. And see, this is what I like about Seth. Told you guys before, scrappy babyface Seth doesn't mind cutting the corners. He's okay swinging chairs around. I like that. This is fine. I like this. This is perfectly in tune with Seth Rollins' babyface character. He hits a springboard knee strike on Baron Corbin. Enziguri's Lashley. Super kicks follow. He does his burn it down stomps, but he's tripped by Bobby Lashley, who was on the outside. There's a weird spot where Bobby Lashley has Kofi up in his spine buster position, and they sort of tumble over the top rope, and I think someone was supposed to toss someone over. It was kind of strange here. The heels are on the floor. There's a dive by Seth that follows, and that is followed by Kofi's trust dive from the top turnbuckle to the floor. That always scares the shit out of me. Back in the ring, the end of days is reversed with Trouble in Paradise on Corbin. Covers, and the win happens. So your champions are victorious, but Lashley comes in with spears for everyone. He grabs a chair, starts swinging, but Kofi and Seth avoid the chair shots. But Brock Lesnar comes out. Is he going to cash in? Is this it? He's coming down with the briefcase? Is this what's going to happen? He circles the ring for drama. He jumps up onto the apron for drama. But no. He backs away. He walks away. And we hear Paul talking to Brock. And he says, next week we're going to announce who he's going to cash in on. I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't. No. This is what we're going to end on here. When I saw Kofi and Seth in the ring, and okay, I'm going to preface this. Any of you who have not seen Avengers Endgame, and you're like, I don't want to be spoiled because I still want to see it. Even though it's been 3 weeks a month now, if you haven't seen it by now, I think spoilers are fair game at this point. They're not major spoilers, but look, if you don't want to hear talk about Avengers Endgame, move away because I'm going to do a comparison to Avengers Endgame here. You ready? Are you good? Or you can just mute it. And then I'll go like this when I'm done talking about it, all right? If you just want to stick around and you want to mute I'll go like this. If you're watching, you'll see the signal. If you're not watching and you're just listening, well, you're shit out of luck, pal. So when I saw Kofi and Seth in the ring with Brock coming down, and they had been through a grueling match, and they're smaller than Brock, and they're sweaty and they're exhausted. I immediately thought of Iron Man and Captain America doing their damnness together to try and take down Thanos. But Thanos is just too big, and they have to team up to take him down. And then I was looking at that, and I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty cool. In that sense, where you have this really invincible villain, and there's the two of you guys, and you guys represent the best in all of us. Talking about Seth and Kofi, and believe in you. You are the heroes here. Of course, you kind of want to see these two band together to try and take them down. I'm like, hey, you know what? This actually kind of works. And at this point, I'm actually expecting Brock at some point to say, I am inevitable. Because that's how the whole evening felt like when you think about it. When I saw the ending here, it wasn't as much now as Seth and Kofi auditioning. It was just like, well, motherfucking Thanos just walked down with the Infinity Gauntlet. What the hell are you going to do about it? So that's kind of the comparison that popped into my mind here. So that's first part of my final thought here. The second part of my final thought is Brock shouldn't announce. I hope this is a swerve. This is one of these moments where I really hope that they're going to bait and switch us here. Brock shouldn't announce when and who he's going to cash on. He shouldn't. I think the attraction of having Brock Lesnar having the briefcase is the fact that it's Brock Lesnar. That we're all conditioned to believe that Brock can chew up people and spit them out alive. If there is this looming doubt that at any given moment he can just pop in at any time and pull the trigger, and you're not expecting it, that's what makes it fantastic. It's what makes the Money in the Bank idea fantastic. It's what failed Braun Strowman last year. But it makes it all the more sweeter to have this big asshole Brock Lesnar walking around with the briefcase that could just pull it out at any moment. It's like, yep, this is it. And we're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Because they talked about the paranoia. Paul Heyman talked about the paranoia. The paranoia exists with the fans as well in the meantime. And this is what's fun about Money in the Bank. I'm okay with Bayley cashing in on the same night that she won it. It's what made the most sense in the context. But Brock? Nah. I'm pretty sure this all that this is doing is setting up Brock next week coming out and saying, I'm going to cash in in Saudi Arabia. I'm like, well, that'll be a shame. I'm not going to watch it. And that's what Colton said. He's going to cash in on Rollins in Saudi Arabia. There you go. Although I would really, really like Kofi Kingston versus Brock Lesnar. That'd be great. And it would be a fresh match. And Kevin agrees. He goes where he wants. It's much better for him not to spoil the surprise. That's part of the fun of the Money in the Bank deal, man. It's just to be shocked, just to be surprised. That's really part of the fun. Well, one thing that's not quite as fun is wrapping up another evening of the Mr. Warren Hayes show. But I will want to say thank you to everyone who joined us live here this evening in the chat. It was a lot of people, a lot of fun discussion going on. So that's always cool. I want to thank you. Thank you everyone for watching on demand or listening on your favorite podcast application. Do not forget to tune in tomorrow. Come back right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes to see and join in on my live SmackDown Live recap show. That's always a lot of fun. And in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. And I will see you next time.